Hello. Welcome to Healthy by Choice, the podcast that's here to ignite your belief in what's truly possible for your health and well-being. Hi, I'm Dr. Kerry, and what lights me up is empowering others. My mission has always been to inspire you to take your health seriously and give you the tools to understand your body on a deeper, more meaningful level. In each episode, we'll explore the healing power of nature, the role of real food as medicine, and how intentional movement can restore balance to your body and mind. So whether you're on a journey of prevention, recovery, or simply seeking more vitality, this podcast is your reminder. You hold the power to heal. Thanks so much for joining me. Hi, friends. Welcome back. I am super excited for today's episode because I have the pleasure, honor of interviewing a doctor, a healer, an energy worker, Reiki master, author, also my colleague, and most importantly, my friend, Dr. Chris Lipat. And I will tell you that Dr. Chris is magical in every way there is, and definitely somebody whose wisdom I seek personally. And as a matter of fact, when I go to Oahu, I would want to go and have an appointment with Dr. Chris. And now there are appointments available online. And so the most exciting thing is I want to share this magical human with you so that you can consider having online appointments yourself. And with that, welcome, Dr. Chris.
Thanks, Dr. Kerry. So great to be with you here on your podcast.
I'm so excited to have you. And I've been following you. I have your book. As you know, I've had you treat me, and I still use much of the wisdom from you. One of the things I didn't say in the introduction is that also you create some essences. So I'm just going to stop talking and let you explain to people what you do. What does an energy worker do? And maybe you'll share with us kind of the population of people that you prefer to work with or that you have the best results with, or just share with us what you do, Dr. Chris.
Sure. Before I started chiropractic school, what led me on the path was, first having a career in New York City and burning out. And then actually during that time, I learned Reiki. And that was my first introduction to energy work. And this was in the late 90s, early 2000s. I grew up in a medical family, and Western medical trained family. So we didn't even think about any kind of alternative medicine, even our own traditional medicines. We didn't, really grow up with. So Reiki really opened up my eyes into this whole understanding of, what else there is to life and to the world besides Western medicine. And so from there, though, I wanted to learn more about the body and how it worked. And ended up moving out west to the West Coast and getting introduced to chiropractic through a friend. And then actually I ended up working part-time for a chiropractor and learning more about the field of alternative medicine. And that's when I decided to go to chiropractic school. And that's when I ended up meeting you, Kerry. We were in the same batch, right?
Yeah.
And it was just wonderful to learn about, the synergism between the Reiki philosophy and chiropractic philosophy, right? The power that made the body heals the body.
Yes.
And so then, as I went through my journey in chiropractic school, and I was just amazed at how wonderful chiropractic works. But, there was a time when I had to be adjusted regularly. Like I felt like almost every other day, right? So I would feel, tension in my neck. I would get adjusted. I would feel better. And then I would feel it again the next day. And then I would get adjusted and feel better. So I was like, okay, there's something going on here that's, that we need to get to the root of.
Yeah.
And so after I graduated, or actually towards the end of my career is when I learned about applied kinesiology, muscle testing. And that's, in that framework, they would look at different aspects, not only of, alignment, but also is there a structural component? Is there a chemical nutritional component going on? Is there an emotional component going on? And that's when I started to say, oh, wow, okay, this is what I need. This is what I'm looking for to really get, a little bit deeper into why. Why do I need to be adjusted? And
So
so
you
from,
were your first patient, basically.
huh?
You were patient number one.
Well, exactly, exactly. Oh my gosh, yes. So, so I met chiropractors who and got treated by chiropractors who had that kind of understanding and got really wonderful results. And so, after I graduated, I moved to California, not to California, to Honolulu. And I had to start my first practice, right? And I've never, my own business, and I've never done that before. So again, the stress and the fear would just really augmented my you know uh experience in my body of food sensitivities and just anxiety and all the things, all the stress related issues. I started developing asthma and I've never had asthma before.
Wow.
So I
Wow.
was like, oh gosh, okay. So I need to get even deeper. And so that's when I actually got into functional medicine and ended up getting a certification in functional medicine. So then I had all these tools, right? I had the Reiki, the chiropractic, the functional medicine, and then the applied kinesiology. And so with that, what I loved about applied kinesiology is then I was able to have a framework to tie all of these things together. Because the muscle testing, um, it was just a window for me to say, you know what? When I look at someone, I tell them, your body is the doctor. I'm just here to listen, right? I have the training to kind of, make sure that whatever comes through, kind of makes sense, or, is within a kind of a logical framework. But for the most part, um, from that system of just listening to a person's body and what they need at that moment, and then applying, the precise intervention in that moment in terms of, with the tools that I did have, I got really um, just powerful and interesting stories and approaches from that. And so from that, when I started to ask, okay, what do my patients need to up level? I'm getting some good results. I'm asking, what do patients need to heal? But now I want to ask, what do patients need to up level? And so that's when actually some other tools started coming into my practice, right? Like sound bowls, tuning forks started to come in. People, a friend gifted me sound bowls. I'm like, oh, okay. As soon as I asked this larger question, right, of what do we need to up level our skills, our ways of being. Yeah. So tuning forks came in. I started, bringing in crystals more. I started working more with colors. Um, and even like being more intentional with the soundscape that I created, what frequencies would be helpful for this session at this time. Right. So of course, as I practice, I am able to hold more of this complexity and have all of these things happening all at once in a session. And it was really, creative for me, but then also a really, interesting experience for the patients too, right? To have this kind of, and then also the flower essences also came in,
Yeah.
right? So, and gem elixirs, because I was asking, okay, what else would be helpful to help my patients, to move through emotions, that are so powerful and complicated. And
Yeah.
so the idea of flower essences and gem elixirs came in too. And so, yeah, so I realized that I was starting to approach the patient, in this melded way. Um, because, as a Reiki practitioner, I was looking at things like meridians, at chakras, right? And in those systems, which are the chakras are from Hindu metaphysics, right? The meridians are from Chinese medicine. And when you start looking through those frameworks, you realize that physical experiences also have a spiritual component to them, have an emotional component to them, have another dimension of, you know, what we are being called to become.
I love that.
Yeah, right. And so then with bringing in those concepts, intersecting it too with the chiropractic, right? Because in chiropractic we believe like if we're physically aligned, that also aligns us on a spiritual level as well, right? Um, and so bringing all these different ways of looking, and then in traditional medicine, especially also in Philippine medicine, we're also looking at the elements, right? Air, fire, earth, water. And so, yeah, so it's just, so that I'm bringing with the elixirs, I'm bringing in the water element. With the Reiki, it's kind of like the fire element, right? So it's just, this multidimensional experience in my practice.
Very complete.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Seeing the patient in their entirety, you know.
I will
Mhm.
share with the listeners. I saw you in 2021 or two when I was in Hawaii, and I was sent home with, I guess I want to say a pattern that I printed out and put under my bed. And it was in alignment with the third chakra, as an example. And there were mantras to say. And I mean, this is the most thorough, complete treatment I've had. And in a way, I feel very seen. In a way, I feel very heard. Also, I loved that I was sent home with, I'm going to say homework, but things that I can do that put me in the control, or that's not really the word I want to use, but it's my choice to continue the healing after. And the most exciting thing is that now you offer this online or over the phone. Tell us about that. How do you work with people remotely?
Sure, yes. The actually through Reiki,
Mm,
they have a framework of being able to work at a distance. They say the energy knows no space or time. So that kind of opens up so that, when we're talking online, it's not just advising. It's also, yes, I'm also able to send or, channel energy. And, with Reiki, right, the recipient is the one that's really in charge. They're really the one taking the energy through the facilitator and, the energy that they need. Um, so yeah, so that's the added bonus of in a virtual session, is it's not just a consult, but then also there is some treatment as well.
cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I love that because there have been many patients I've worked with where kind of exactly what you said about yourself. When you went to chiropractic, there is an expectation that certain things will resolve or bodies tend to respond in the same way. But when it keeps coming back, we know it's deeper and we need to heal something different, something deeper. And I love to question different patients if they're willing to open up to a different healing. And many patients have even asked me, do you know a Reiki master? Do you know someone
Mhm.
who does deeper healing? And I know you. I'm always happy to refer to you, and I myself consider myself a patient of you because I don't remember. I'll just give my listeners an example. I don't remember why I sought your care, except that I was going to be in Hawaii. But I know now that I will make an appointment with you because I have unexplained histamine response and bloating. And clear
Mm,
that's a symptom. I've never had allergies before, and I know that when I get
mm,
adjusted, my alignment is good and I'm regularly adjusted. I get regular acupuncture, I get regular massage. I always
mm,
have. I've never missed since, 30 years of regular treatment. But every now and then I need to seek the care of somebody who looks deeper, and maybe even, as you were saying, I open deeper as the patient to say, okay, how do I receive this? And how do I listen deeper? So your questions about how do I expand is perfect because it's about me being ready and
mhm,
open and you helping guide me, right? Can you speak to that a little bit about
mhm.
like what your role is as the practitioner and the patient's role as well?
Right. Yeah, no, that is a great example of the folks who would be ready to work with me, right? The ones who want to go deeper, who want to understand more about what is this symptom asking me, like, if I were to shift this so that the symptom is no longer relevant,
Mm,
right?
sure.
And so, for instance, something like a histamine response, I mean, that could mean many things, from the different traditions that I access. But let's say if it's the solar plexus, okay, a lot of times it's the liver, right? Now, of course, we could go the obvious way might be nutrition, right? Because you're talking about bloating, etc. And so, yes, that might be covered. But then the other questions would be, okay, well, if there's a liver component, is there some unresolved anger or frustration, or annoyance that's just, recurring that you're not even conscious of? And so, okay, let's bring that to the surface and then try to see what's underneath that. Is there a childhood component to that? Were you sensitive to other people's angers and frustrations, or is there an even ancestral component to it? Right? Is that a tendency for anger and frustration, on one of your parents' side that has been passed down because that's how your line survived? Right. And so if we acknowledge that, can we then release that way of being, or at least know that sometimes it's comforting for some folks to know that it's not just them, that there is, these larger forces at play so that they can then, okay, well, I can work with that, right? Because oftentimes a lot of folks who do come to me have been doing the work. And so then they're just like, okay, what else is there? I thought I addressed it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it's wonderful to work with those folks to try to kind of sleuth all the different um, issues underlying, and then help folks to find the root and resolve it. And sometimes there are many roots, and so we have to go at different angles, but at least we're doing it together, right? Because sometimes when you're alone, you're missing that additional perspective, or that specialty that can then help you to go deeper. And so, yeah, so for me, I'm, a facilitator, I'm a catalyst. And it's oftentimes it is for folks who are already deep into their healing process and need that additional support.
I love those other words for practitioner, other words for doctor, other words for healer. Absolutely, catalyst is one of them. And I think when I work with you and when I send people to you, there's a level of the non-judgment is really important, and also opening up to the possibilities that we may not know or we may not have ever considered or whatever, and it's still okay. It's still going to be okay. It's still, there's potential to heal. To
Mm.
me, especially as a patient, that becomes really important to realize it's not bigger than me. It's not stronger than me. I'm going to get through this one way or the other. And having the support that you were talking about leaves me not alone in this, leaves me not as afraid, and also leaves me in a positive light of like the ability to be seen and heard, and also as a higher self, as a better version, as opposed to, wow, I'm just stuck here and now I have, whatever it is. And
Well, and it's a clue too, right? So let's again, if we're using the solar plexus as an example, solar plexus, is a lot about um, releasing um, insecurity, about being really clear about who you are and your boundaries. And so it's so helpful. Sometimes I'll give affirmations because then you can kind of see where your body is trying to lead you, what you're trying to let go of, right? So yeah, maybe that histamine response is really your body's call to be like, I'm tired of getting hooked up on all these, you know, things that are bothering me. And so, okay, if I let them go, you know, I'm I'm headed towards being this person who's really clear in my boundaries. I'm headed towards this person who is just really grounded in who I am and my own power. Right. So it's like, oh, okay, is that what this is leading me towards? Sure. That sounds like a plan.
I love that. And I forgot that when we worked together, you did give me affirmations. And
Hmm.
I remember for the longest time, I had I don't know what you call it, the design under my bed and the affirmations.
Right. It's just the design is usually a sacred geometry of some kind or other.
It was some sort of a geometry that I
Hmm.
printed off the
Hmm.
computer. I mean, off of, printed and then put it on. Your instruction was that I sleep with it under the mattress, so I just threw it under the bed. And I did my affirmations. I recorded them onto my iPhone and just listened and
Wow,
fell
yes.
asleep or something, but for like the longest time. And thanks for reminding me of that because all of what you just said is that bigger healing, the bolder healing, and now when you go in to get a chiropractic adjustment, it flows a little easier.
Exactly.
Everything works just a little bit more synergistically. Everything
Exactly.
feels a little better when you feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is really it's an integrative approach. So yes, so um maybe you'll have deeper breakthroughs with your therapist, or maybe, that physical therapy that you go to is now going to be more effective, right? Or even when you go to, your regular chiropractor for adjustments, it holds longer,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I love that. So, Dr. Chris, is there anything else you want to say, or do you want to tell people how to get a hold of you, or how to make appointments with you, or anything else you want to say?
Well, the easiest way to reach me is through my website, drchrislipat.com. And the elixirs are there, appointments are there, a link to my ebook is there. And I'd love to interact with whoever is interested in this work. I hope at some point very soon to start teaching. I teach Reiki classes, but I've been incorporating what I call the knowing method, which is what the book describes, which is a muscle testing based method, which actually supports people around their self-healing process. So you can create your own kind of framework for how you want to approach particular health issues or even other larger issues that you're trying to deal with. So I'm hoping to actually do standalone classes at some point really soon. Now that I've moved into a new space in Honolulu, so that'll be really exciting. So
Oh,
yeah, keep a lookout, get on the website, get on my email list so you can keep updated.
fantastic. And I should say, I did take your Reiki class in
Yes, you did.
2007. And you said something else. Oh, and I am on your email list, and I do have your book. So, all of those things I highly recommend for anyone who's at all interested. Get under the care of this person who is just as authentic as they come. I have to say, you're the real deal. You're super honest. You're super present. I remember we started chiropractic school together, and I was just drawn to your energy. My soul was drawn to your soul. And I sat right next to you. I remember clearly. That wasn't really my favorite way to start a new program, but it was nice to have great energy to share it with.
For
Okay, I'm going
sure.
to stop the recording. So thank you, Dr. Chris. And just FYI,
Yeah.
it's Lipat, Dr. Chris
Yes.
Lipat, Lipat. And we'll put the link in the show notes. Thanks, Dr. Chris.
Thank you, Dr. Kerry.